to Italian just for 1 minute, and then we'll keep going on in English to the afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon, the same workshop in a more extended version will be given in Italian. So, buon pomeriggio a tutti, se ci sono italiani in sala. Domani pomeriggio questo workshop sarà dato in italiano. Abbiamo voluto questa formula, una versione in inglese e una in italiano. Quella di domani è anche in collaborazione con l'Ordine dei giornalisti, quindi per i giornalisti italiani presenti c'è la possibilità di avere i crediti formativi se vi siete registrati alla piattaforma SIGEF. Oggi invece continuiamo in inglese e quindi torno nella versione inglese, ci sono molti colleghi da tutto il mondo. So, I am a journalist. I have been joining the Google News Lab a few months ago as a media trainer for Italy. So basically, my work is mainly the one of doing training to journalists and going around Italy to meet people and work with them in helping and supporting the use of Google tools for journalism. Google News Lab is a team within Google which is specialized directly in supporting and interacting with newsroom and journalists in order to improve and foster the usage of Google tools and like in the production of journalistic pieces on journalistic work. So Google produces many, many different tools. I'm sure many of you use many Google tools daily. Many of these tools are not born directly for journalism, but can be adapted to the use in journalism. So NewsLab was born exactly with this idea, to favor and to facilitate the usage of these tools for journalists, and also to make them clear, because many of these tools have been used in many different fields, but maybe many journalists haven't really came across like to these kind of tools, and maybe they didn't really imagine that they could be used to produce, to foster their work. So we're talking about tools for the production, even like just the normal collaborative platform like Google Drive. I don't know how many of you use Drive to write and exchange material. We're talking about data, and we're also talking about multimedia tools. So we will have 4 workshops in these 3 days. Today we're focusing on search, so all the tools to improve your search abilities online, both on contents and on images. Also, the use of these tools to verify, for example, images, so to verify the content, which is a topic that's highly important more and more since we're doing so much work online and so much taking also content online from user-generated content. And very often, we find that journalists struggle with verifying the source of the information, or even just the identity or the truthfulness of that kind of information. And also, we will go into some sources of data, so Google Trends and Public Explorer. I just wanted to show you, so I'll just go off my presentation for a second to show you the Google News Lab website, which is actually declined in many languages. So I'm showing you the English version, but you can also pick any of many languages. And the website is thought as a platform to also to do some learning. So there are many tutorials on the website that journalists can use to learn how to use the different tools. Search is what we're going to do today, so I'll just show you. For example, there are tutorials and lessons to do advanced search, to use Public Data Explorer as a tool, to use Google Trends. And then there are tools for reporting. We will go more on those in the next few days. So Maps, for example, or YouTube as a storytelling tool, as a platform as well to integrate in your everyday media work. And then we have the distribution tools and optimization tools. What I want to point out, because we won't be going deep into that, but it's part of the Google News Lab activity, it's also to be collaborating with other groups, other agencies, and other teams of journalists or digital content producer to verify, for example, the origin and the authenticity of contents, and also to render again available, so to distribute verified content. For example, YouTube Newswire is a channel where you can find, it's a YouTube channel, we will go through that tomorrow morning, but where you can find lots of material, video material that's been verified by Storyful, which is an agency whose major objective is actually to analyze video content online and make sure that it's original, it's truthful, and the contents are actually verified. First Draft, I don't need really to introduce a lot First Draft. There are many appointments here during this festival with First Draft. It's a coalition of different groups of people and different teams that are, again, working together with the specific aim of improving ability to verify information. So on the Google News Lab website, you can find continuously updated contents and new tutorials. So I really invite you to go back there and to have a look at that. Okay, so we go straight into the topic of today, which is advanced search. I would like to know how many people use search normally, and how many people use advanced search techniques. Okay, so you probably are already very strong in that, but I'll go through all the different steps anyway. And I want to start from the real beginning, what Google search was in 1998. I'm not sure everybody remembers that. I do remember that very well. And graphically, of course, I really was there for that. And I remember that it was an interface that was pretty simple. And there was like this long list of links you could come up with. Of course, the amount of information that was around in the internet in 1998 was completely different from today in terms of like orders, I think, of magnitudes. And we were searching and working mainly on these kind of devices, right? Many might not remember, but even when we started surfing the net, that's what we used to say, and then deeply and deeply more navigating, we moved from a very simple mobile phone into the mobile phones we have today. So the devices we have today are definitely much more powerful, but also require contents to be displayed in different type of formats, not only text and links. That's why search today, when you enter the first word you're looking for, doesn't come up with a list of links. Comes up with many different type of information in different formats. You have the knowledge graph there on the right. The knowledge graph is a particular feature that's been developed in order to assemble a number of different type of information on a certain term, and already giving back, when you're just putting the name like Perugia, already giving back many different type of information like maps, anagraphical or demographical information, sometimes some pictures as well and images. So you have many different channels through which you get information back that compose the page you actually see. If we, for example, search for University of Perugia, not simply Perugia, the knowledge graph naturally changes, and we will have some more information on the university, including, for example, some of the most the celebrities who have attended that kind of university, or people who have been famous, like associated with that university. Now, the problem we have when we are doing search today is that the amount of information is so huge that very often, if we're looking for something very specific, it comes up at page 17, 18, or 315, whatever. How many of you scroll the pages behind, like, let's say, 2 or 3? Few hands, okay. Once in a workshop about 2 weeks ago, a colleague said, I always go ahead, one by one, up to page 20, because I'm really looking for some information. So there is no need to get like one by one to page 20. You can use lots of refinements to actually kind of home down, like to really refine your search and trying to get that kind of results a bit earlier than scrolling one page after the other. We go back to the first example. So we do Perugia, and we see, for example, that the first result is Wikipedia. Then we have Città di Perugia, Turismo, Città di Perugia. Some examples are in Italian, some are in English. So, but the principle, of course, is absolutely the same. We can say, I want Perugia, but I don't want the term città. So just do minus città. And you get a very different number of results. Of course, we're still very high here, but you can get less and less. You can combine different terms. I want to say no città, no università, for example, and then I keep going down, okay? So I can exclude some terms. This is very useful, not so much when I'm looking for città in Perugia, but when, for example, there is one term that's particularly redundant online. Some very well-known surname, for example, that if you're looking for information on some people, that kind of surnames comes back very often, right? So some information that kind of gets in the way all the time. What I can do is also try, so I just need to use the operator minus in this case, okay? We see a few operators and we can combine them, so that's very important. What I can do is I can do a search within a specific site. So I don't need to do the search into the entire World Wide Web. Of course, already I have channels there. I can already look for the web or just the news channel or images or video or so on. But I can also go straight down to a specific website. So for example, this morning I was listening to the most recent news of Giulio Regeni. In Italy, it's a case that we are following with high attention, all of us for sure. I'm sure most of you know the story of this young researcher who's being killed in Egypt, and it's very difficult to get the entire truth. So if I put his name online, I get 371,000 results. Now, if I want to see what one specific newspaper has been writing on this story, I can just put the same name and then put site, colon, double colon, sorry, and Corriere.it, for example. This is one of the major Italian newspaper. In this case, what I get are all results directly only from that newspaper. So like I go into the archive, let's say, of that newspaper, okay? I can also change and again define even better. Say I don't want all the results, but I want the result from the last year. I'll go back online and show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm on Google search here. I do Giulio Regeni, site, Corriere.it. Let me just try to enlarge a bit. Okay. If I go on more search tools here, okay, already you see that from 300,000 we're gone down to 80,000 results because we are, of course, in a specific channel. We're not anymore in the entire web. And then I can go in search tools. And here I can see anytime, all results. I can say all results or verbatim, for example. Verbatim will be the situation where the two words are kept together. So I'm not taking all pages with Giulio or Regeni, but all pages which display both words. Or I can also say I want the information from the past month. Of course, we're talking now of a very recent, like we're talking about something that has happened in the last 2 months, but I could go back 1 year if it was a different topic, for example, okay? And also I can sort by relevance or sort by date. Like for me as a journalist, this is very important because for something that's like kind of old enough sometimes, I'm looking for some specific news and articles, for example, in a certain amount of time. If I go and say, instead of past year or past, I just go a custom range and say, I want all the information that's been displayed in that newspaper between November 30th and December 15th, for example, okay? I put a range here, and then I can put it in order of time. So that's not only, I use that a lot, for example, to do background search when I'm trying to reconstruct, to reassume a case, if I'm like trying to investigate all cases which I'm not familiar with, that's a very good way to actually get all the material in order and have a sort of a background story that I can go through, okay? Also, it's very good to know that I can go into a site when I'm not so familiar with the place where that thing happened. Now, here I've put an international case. But sometimes we are actually working on very local situations. So once I have identified that, for example, there are 1 or 2 local news outlets that are working on a specific territory, then it's very good for me to go straight into their archive and try to find that kind of material. If you have any question, please just stop me and we can, I prefer to answer questions also on the way, right? One thing I can do is also search for a specific domain. Like I want to see what's been published about journalism, not by commercial domains, but by organization. So I can say, look for everything about journalism on site, semicolon, it's in English, right? Semicolon, yeah, sorry, org. So I want to see journalism in a page, in a website which is with an org domain. Again, in this case, I see, for example, that Wikipedia comes up a lot. So I can say, okay, take off Wikipedia in case I don't want to see that, but I'm trying to put forward websites that are specifically from associations or schools, for example, which will have an org domain. Of course, I can do the other thing as well. I can instead decide to go on commercial site, so I just do journalism site, semicolon com. Again, Wikipedia comes back in a couple of results, so same thing. You see how results change anytime I actually try to refine my search. And it's very fast. Another thing I can do is try to find a related site. So let's say I know the Journalism Festival. I want to see what's around there that's somehow associated. So it's been tagged in a kind of similar way, okay? I just put related, semicolon, journalismfestival.com. And I get the results, like a list of sites that are likely to be similar to, or like quite close to what I'm looking for. Another thing I can do is search by file type. How many of the people who are here are doing data journalism, for example? A few hands, okay. Data journalists know very well that it's very difficult to look for data in websites. Very often there are few data, not because they're hidden, but they're not that used, so it's not easy to get there directly, right? So what I can do, I can actually ask the search engine to look for a specific file type. For example, if I'm doing some research on UK healthcare, I can say I would like to see all the PDF. So I know that very likely reports will be in a PDF format. So I put UK healthcare, I get 460 million results. But if I go and say, just take me out only file type, semicolon, PDF, so only that kind of format, already we go down to 52,400,000 results. Of course, again, we're still in a very broad research here. If I, for example, look for file type XLS or XLS, so type of results like format that are data tables, we see many less, 27,800, okay? I can, again, when I'm looking for a specific format, combine the search with the other tools. So I can say I want UK healthcare PDF only from the last year, for example. So again, I go on the more research tools and use those, again, to hone down even more. So to say I just want documents that are in that particular time frame or the most recent one, for example. Also, I can say I want this kind of file type inside a specific website. So I'm looking in the City of London website, and I look for Excel file type in dealing with UK healthcare, and I find 3. You see, if I'm looking for UK healthcare Excel files, generally, I'm well over the 1,000 documents, right? But when I'm actually refining my search, I end up with very few data sets to look at. So, if you, yes. Just a second, microphone.
Questo tipo di ricerca funziona in italiano con i termini in inglese o anche con i termini in italiano? Esempio, io devo scrivere file type o tipo di file?
Okay, the question is if I have to put the operator in English or in Italian. The operator has to be in English. So it's file type, it's a site, okay? Now, of course, you can pick, prego, you can pick the language you're doing your search in. And in fact, you can actually say, I'm doing a search using my language Italian or my English language or whatever it is. I'm doing a search limited to my country or worldwide. So you can, again, refine the search in that situation. But the operators are in English. And there is a specific page where you can actually get all the Google search operators. I strongly advise the people who want to use them to print in a very old manner. Oh no, I'm kidding, but to put on your mobile. The reason why I'm saying that, of course you can always use the Google Advanced Search interface, right? But when you are on mobile, it's so much easier to know fewer operators by hand, like to have them ready to go. So if you want to have a very specific advanced search, you can use the Google Advanced Search interface and fill that in a much more detailed way. But if you know some of those operators, when you're looking fast, you're trying to go fast through information, it will be much more effective. I just want to give you an order of magnitude. These are not definite numbers. Of course, they are just to have an idea of the amount of searches we have globally in a day, the amount of video that are uploaded in a day, or the amount of news articles that are, again, uploaded and distributed in a day. So just to give you the idea of how much information is out there and why it's so important to be able to actually define the kind of search you're doing. How many people use Scholar? Okay, 3 or 4 hands. Now, I come from a scientific background, so to me, Scholar, it's an amazing resource tool, but I strongly advise any sort of journalist in any field to actually use it. For example, to profile experts. Very often you find that people are interviewed as experts, and not always they have the expert profile. Like, not always they actually have that expertise. Now, Google Scholar is a collection of scholarly papers. So if you go into Scholar, you can actually put by name or by key term. You can see who are the people who are prominent in a certain field, because are the people who are publishing scientific paper or recognized institutional papers. So you can avoid, for example, a lot of waste of time in trying to interview people who are not the expert in a certain field, okay? It's also very good to get ready for a certain interview or to do some work on a field where you don't feel as skilled. Like, for example, I just want to show you a very quick example here. Again, I go out. Sorry, it's too tiny. Okay. So, for example, in Italy, there is a huge case about Xylella in recent years, right? Xylella is a bug. It's a bacterium that's damaging olive trees in some part of the south of Italy, in Apulia specifically. Now, if I'm looking for Xylella, there is, of course, an enormous amount of literature, right? But if I want to say, well, let's see what we know and what's been published on Xylella and Puglia, yes, that's what I meant, okay, I get the literature exactly on that kind of case. So, of course, I'm not expecting a journalist to go through the scientific paper line by line, but I can get some reviews, I can get some material that allows me to build a bit of background before I go out and write an article on something, okay? So especially for certain complex topics, like this one is a particular complex topic in Italy at the moment, asbesto, for example, very long-term issue, and a number of other issues like that, you can actually build your own library, and you can select and save the articles. So you can, anytime you go and see, you can collect your specific collection. You can also ask Google to send you alerts on certain terms. For example, if I'm following a certain topic in the time, I want to be sure that anything that's published on that particular topic gets back to me in a timely manner. So I say, okay, I create an alert, please send me an email anytime, or I can also say, let's see, I can give a specific instruction. I want an alert once a week or once every 10 days, whatever. I don't want an alert daily, but send me an email telling me there are 2 or 3 articles on this topic, okay? Okay. Yeah? Sorry.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
When something is published,
Yeah.
it remains forever, or something will change in the time? The second question is, why sometimes I make a search for something, one day give me an amount of results, and the day after, the same things give me a less result or more result?
It's a dynamic system. It's algorithmic and it's dynamic. It depends on the amount of material that's put online, but also on the amount of searches done. So I don't know the technical feature, but I know it's dynamically changing in that sense. Of course, the material, unless it's being removed by the people who put it up. Some people might have removed the contents, so if they have removed the contents, you might not find it. But if it's there, it might, change because the relevance change, because an article is cited much more, and so on. Okay? Okay, you can use alert not only for Scholar, but alert in general. If you go to Google Alert, you have a question? Oh. Oh, you use alert, okay. Thank you. Okay, alert is a very powerful tool if you're following an issue, not only in the scholarly literature, but in general. So you want to be updated on something that's being published or put online by different kind of sources. You just put your alert. You can actually instruct alert to say, I only want from news, or I want from the entire search, or I want it from video, and so on. So you can customize your alert, but it's really good because, again, it can send you an email in an automatic way once a week or once every 2 weeks until you actually cancel your alert. So you can open an alert, close an alert when you finish that story, and go ahead, okay? Okay, yes?
Just a quick question on the alert.
Yeah.
Sorry. Say I'm tracking the story of a missing girl or something like that. Is there a way to set the search so that set the alert so that I only get alerted like when there's a material change to the story? So let's say I set that girl's name. Would I just be bombarded with new articles about the same thing? Is there a way to sort of change it so that I can only get it when there's...
You only get the new stuff from when you start.
Yeah, I just
email.
mean...
Yeah, Simona. Simona from the communication team, she probably has.
Sorry, I'm Simona Panzeri. Yeah, okay. Communications director for Google. So I think I got a question. You want to know if it's possible to select content that adds pieces of new content, not a new article. And the answer is no.
Okay. No, I didn't understand. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thanks.
I thought you meant new articles. Okay. Okay, so we go into image search. I'm sure many of you use image searches nowadays. Is there, like, yeah, okay, how many? Everybody. Okay, we all need images so badly that we are looking for images all the time. So, of course, I think image search is one of the main features for all of us working online. What I think it's very important to point out is, of course, this is a very powerful way to find all the images that are available. We'll see in a minute that we can also decline that, again, in a very customized way. We can decide that we want only images of a certain size, of a certain color, of a certain type, and we'll see that in a minute. What I really want to point out, it's very important when you go and look for images to make sure you click these research tools and go to see the terms of use of the images, okay? I show you lively. Here we are. Okay, if I look for, again, Perugia, for example, I'm in Google Images now. You can also look for images directly from the search interface and go in the image channel. What I want to see, the first thing I should do is search tools, usage rights. Because if I'm working for a newspaper, it's very different than if I'm working in a school, for example, and working with students in an educational environment. Usage terms are the usage terms that people who have uploaded those images have assigned to those images. So someone could say, I'm very happy that everybody uses my image free of charge everywhere. Some other could say, of course, no, I want my image to be used free of charge everywhere, only for non-commercial purposes, and so on, right? I'm sure that, I mean, anytime I give a workshop, there are at least a couple of people telling me, I've seen some of my images being used online by someone else without even asking for permission, which is, of course, something that it's not really correct, right? So it's very important that we use the image that's labeled in a proper way, okay? Now, we can decide to use images of a certain size, large, medium, larger than something, or an exact size. Because, for example, we have a publication that has a specific column, like we need an image of certain pixel size, right? So we say, okay, we want it larger than 800 by 600, let's say. So instead of looking through all the images, download them, and then find out that they're not right for the use we need, we can decide to have that directly. We can change, we can select, not change, select the images also by color. So I say, for example, for my work today, I need all the images that are going into red color, okay? Perugia, it's very clear that the red color has a specific association, but if I want the green one, again, okay, I can get all the images which are predominantly green. I can say, or like, for example, the black and white, and so on. Type, I want, for example, faces. So I want all the images, Perugia and faces. Very often they come from, of course, show or sport or so on. But you can also have some celebrities and so on. Or I want a clip art, for example. Again, associated with the term Perugia. So you can pick the type of image, okay? Again, you can say, I want anytime, images produced anytime on the past 24 hours on a specific time. And again, more tools, I can put the size highlighted on the images. So when I'm scrolling through, I see already which kind of size these images are. So I can use the one, I can pick the one that are appropriate for my use. Okay, image search, though, serves other purposes as well. Okay, first of all, you can start from an image and go back and see what image is that one, okay? And that's very important, of course, in our work, because very often what happens is that we circulate images without having verified if they are correct or not. This is a very good example, very typical. I'm sure all of us have retweeted something because it's being maybe nice to see or curious to recirculate, right? Now, some Chicagoans won't drive away until spring. The no parking sign was put there for a reason. Now, everybody who's familiar with Chicago knows very well that it can happen in Chicago to have a frost like that and cars being frozen by the lake and because of bad weather and so on. Now, if you take this image, you can do a snapshot, like you can just take the image itself directly from the screen, or you can use the link that's associated with that image online, and you put it in the interface of Google Images, where this interface here, So you go on Google Images, click on the camera, it opens this kind of interface, and here you can paste the URL or upload the image. And doing that, for example, comes out that that image was part of a collection of images that were not associated with Chicago in 2014, but with a similar meteorological event that was recorded in Switzerland in 2005. Now, we're not damaging many people saying that the first car was in Chicago instead of being in Switzerland in this case. Very different is when we're dealing with information who's much more content sensitive. For example, this image was tweeted, and you can see, I hope you can see how many times it was retweeted, more than 56,000 times, the day after the Paris attack. And it was related to a bombing in Lebanon the same day in the Paris attack. So, of course, most people felt almost guilty because most of the European media that day weren't at all looking at Lebanon, they were all looking at Paris. And this was used by many media directly, saying, yeah, yesterday in Beirut that was the case. Now, if we take this image and do our check, we find out that that image is, yes, it is related to Beirut, but it's back from 2006. It has nothing to do with the day of the Paris attack. Again, similar kind of work can be done also on video. More difficult, but it can be done, taking still images from video. In this case, this is an interview that was recorded in a Syrian refugee camp in 2014, and then used in a new documentary in 2015 in the city of Madaya. So we're talking about Syria, two different refugee camps, but using the same content to say two different stories. I mean, they're not two different stories, unfortunately. But again, the person was interviewed a year before, and his story was involved in the story of the Yarmouk refugee camp. So again, from a journalistic point of view, ethical point of view, is not really correct. I can also have an archive of pictures or images that are sent to me or I have archived in the past and I don't know where they come from. I don't know how to locate this place. So what I do is I take the image, put it up on Google Image. This was actually a real case for me because this is a place I've been as a teenager and couldn't recall at all what it was and found out it's a place near the mountains where I come from. So this is also a very useful way of using this tool. You might have collections of pictures that you want to understand or remember where they come from, or sometimes people can send you material and you need to be sure that those places are actually the ones that are described in the material that's been sent to you. Again, you can use the Google image search in a more deep way, but yes?
A quick question before we pass this point of verification. If now I take a picture of you talking and upload it and say it's a conference in Rome, it will be the first time to be uploaded on the internet. So how can you compare it? You compare it with what? And it will be circulated as a conference in Rome. The environment is similar, people are similar, so
maybe
no one can even
in an hour time, given the fact that so many colleagues are tweeting and sending images around, there will be some pictures saying that I'm in Perugia and some pictures saying that I'm in Rome, right? You have half an hour.
I'm visiting Syria and all damaged buildings are similar.
I am not saying this tool is perfect. I'm just saying it's a helping tool. And for many things is just one tool that can help us. I'm not saying it's solving all the problems. But at least I can tell you.
Yeah, I want you to enlighten us. What kind of research, because I know that you are doing in Google research, more deeper in authenticity. I know you are doing more sophisticated work to make sure that these kind of images and video are really authentic, regardless of they were uploaded before. Were uploaded before, it's easy to make it authentic. But after, for the first time,
sure.
Sorry, I have a quick question as well regarding defamation. I can take your picture, it's Perugia, it's you, talking about Google, and write a comment in Arabic, which is not easily recognized by everyone here, and write the vicious speech about hatred, and it will be circulated with this kind of comment.
Yes, and then I will use translate. I will use translate and know you have done that.
I know, but how long it will stay? How can I prevent, for example, because I'm
No,
working,
you can't prevent.
I'm working with Al Jazeera, and we have been facing a defamation campaign by all regimes we are exposing. And this defamation campaign is stuck in Google forever. Our faces and our personalities are defamed forever because no one can remove it from Google.
Yeah, I won't go into this because what I'm saying is you have some tools that you can use as a journalist. There are many panels in this festival dealing with this, I know, with this kind of topic particularly. So I'm sure there will be plenty of discussion about that. What I can discuss here is simply how, as a journalist, I can lower the level of error and mistake, right? And, you know, there are so many. I can just give you another example, very recent. I didn't put it in my presentation because I didn't want to go through that. But what happened in Brussels 2 weeks ago, there were a number of video and images that were circulated that weren't correct. And even when media were actually told, look, this image comes from Moscow airport in 2011, it took time to get the media saying, well, sorry, it was a mistake. We took it online and we didn't verify. So I think that the more journalists use these tools, the less we have to deal with information circulating in a wrong way. I'm not saying this is the medicine for everything at all. Another, yes. Sure.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have another question. It's in some way related to the other. I wanted to know if someone download the image and then upload it again. Is there a way to, because the URL changes, of course, so is there a way to compare the two links? I know, for example, some cameras press the GPS location in the photos. Is there a way to stamp the link
when you use a system like this, you just see like the ways what it's being used, the places online. In some of the programs, but again, I don't want to go into detail because there are many panels on that. For example, in First Draft Coalition, we're taking part to that, to the fact of using more sophisticated tools to go and see how the image was actually taken, down to the camera, down to the characteristic. But there you get to a level of professional software. It's another step. The journalists in the newsroom normally can use these kind of tools, and that's where it can go. Like, that's where you get.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to give you quickly before we go, because I need to go into trends, at least to show you what it is, but I just want to tell you, we'll go better in Street View Friday morning. But Street View, it's becoming more and more also a source for certain spots in the world, of course, of images that can be also historical. Like I can go in a certain place and see if there are images taken at different time, okay? I'll give you an example. Here, Milan. We can go into this particular square in Street View, and we can see up there is a little clock up there on the left. And you can see Street View, 2008 was the first picture, and then there are a few other pictures being taken in time. I can see how that place has changed in time. Again, it's another tool that I can use for some sort of verification, specifically in some cases, of course, when there are these kind of images taken, okay? For example, this case was used by BBC News to show after the riots in UK in 2011, to show some of the spots that as they were before and as they were soon after the riots, they were destroyed. We'll go deeper in that on Friday, but if you want fresh imagery as well, there is a mailing list for media, Google Media Alerts, sending you interesting, like, new images especially when there are particular events, like some crisis, for example. Okay, so few people work with data here, but I want to go and dedicate the last 10 minutes that we have together to show you some, yes. Just a second, because they need a microphone, yes.
Thank you. Just before that we move into the data, of course I'm a big fan of Google, and that has revolutionized like the way we make research and given us access to lots of data. But my concern is I do a lot of research myself and in Arabic. And for people who are not English speaker, there is much less research and data available. And even, for example, if I'm searching for an Arabic issues, I will sometimes find much more information in English than in Arabic. So my concern is how to overcome the language barrier. Is there any way, like Google can make all those tons of data translated into other languages like Arabic?
If you're talking about translation, the only tool we have is Translate, which you can use to go from one language into the other. Sometimes you can get contents in a language, you get like using Translator, you can see.
I mean, if I do research on Google in Arabic, I will find much less information than in English.
Because less information is being uploaded.
How can we overcome that? That's my question. Is there any way we can give more access to people who are not necessarily English speaker?
No, upload more content. No, I mean, it's not something coming from the top. Like it's depending on the amount of material and contents that are uploaded. So more contents are uploaded in different languages, more you find. That's the only
but I mean, like, if I do, I'm typing something in Arabic in the Google search, can I get the hits in Arabic while the content is in English?
No, you'll get it in, no? You have to use the translate option. That's the only way.
You can set your translate option to automatically translate the pages. So you can define that on your web browser and that computer or device you use, automatically all pages in English will be translated in Arabic, or pages in Polish will be translated in Italian, and everything like that. That's the way it is possible to do it today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very quick question. You mentioned when we were talking about reverse image search and verification, you mentioned video briefly, but not any solutions to that. What would you recommend, or are there any reverse video search tools or solutions which you know of, or techniques which you would recommend for that?
No, at the moment, what I'm mentioning and what I'm using at the moment, it's like the image search, the reverse image search for still images. I'm saying that's the quickest way.
Screenshots of the video.
Screenshots, exactly. There are, as I said before, more sophisticated softwares that are used by people who are doing that, like regularly, like the partner of YouTube Newswire, Storyful. They use an array of different tools to do that kind of verification. Sometimes it takes really weeks or months to do that. What I'm saying is tools for journalists who are working normally in a newsroom. Yes, 2 questions, and then I have to go ahead and go into the trends, otherwise we won't have time. Yeah.
Sorry, just a very quick add-on to that. When you search for the screen grab, is that bringing up where that screen grab has been used as a JPEG or a picture before?
It depends.
But it wouldn't bring up a video
It's
where
one of
exists.
depends. Oops, sorry. Depends really. Depends if it's being used as how it's being uploaded. It's not like that it's always that consistent. The example I shown before, it's actually very well described in first draft. If you want to see this example I was showing, this one, I took it as an example from the first draft website, exactly explaining how the video has been verified. So if you go into first draft website, you will find some of the tools that they use at the more advanced level to do that. You can do that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I say, these are tools that, I'm not saying one tool fits everything, okay? You have to use a range of tools. Sometimes one tool takes you there, sometimes not.
Okay, thank you.
That's a fact. Yes?
Hi, it's actually a quick yes or no question. I tried the reverse image search on my mobile right now, and it didn't.
No, it doesn't work on mobile yet.
Okay.
That being said, there are a lot of apps who do that. So there are apps, you can find them easily online. There are apps who are coupled with image search and will do the trick.
Don't do it on mobile. We need to stay away from mobile. Don't do it on mobile. Otherwise, everyone will do like that.
Okay, so I just go quickly, and I'm sorry for that, but I really want to go through the possibility to use Google to get data, okay? So I don't know the people in the room who are the people who actually work with data. I just mentioned very quickly some tools that we use to work with data. For example, the data sheets in the Google Drive package are very good to work with data, like to actually build your own database or import a database, or fusion tables. It's a very powerful tool to go from data and then to visualize data as well. We'll go back to that as well in the next workshop. Two sources of data. One is Google Public Data Explorer. This is very interesting because you might find some data simply putting your search, for example, unemployment rate Spain, that's an example I just picked. Again, in your normal search, you come up with a knowledge graph and everything, and already with a graph on your left-hand side. This graph is actually embeddable. So you can take this graph and put it into your website, provided that it's answering the question you're asking, of course. But if you click on that Explore More that's behind the graph, you'll go to a page which is Google Public Data. All the data that are uploaded here are uploaded directly by institutions, research institutes who produce the data. So they are the people who actually upload the data and put terms of usage on the data. But this is used as an interface to navigate through that data. So you can go there and say, for example, I want to use the development index of the World Bank. I can go there, explore the data, and build directly by exploring the data, clicking on the index I want, I can build some graph. And these graphs are all embeddable again. So it's a very powerful and quick way to get graphs instead of doing your data table and convert that in a graph using, for example, Fusion Table, which is, of course, the view to do, like the way to do if you are working on data that you are collecting somehow. But in this way, if you want to have some graphs that are interactive, nice, and ready to be used with data that are certified because they come from all the different type of institutions, you can use it straight away. I want to close on Google Trends. Google Trends is a very interesting feature that's really being used more and more in the recent months. It's basically an interface where you can go and see which are the trends of searches done by people worldwide, or again, now I'll show you in a minute, you can home down to your country. So you can say, I want to have the worldwide picture, or I go country by country, for example. You can see which are the trend searches. It's an index again. We're not talking about absolute numbers here, but you can say, at this minute, today, day by day, update it's daily. Today, the trending topic in Google search is this, or there are these 10, okay? I show you live, which I think it's nice. Yeah, we are. That's, for example, today, okay? So if I go here, I can see, for example, United States or Italy. Let's say I decide to go Italy. And I see which are the trending topics in Italy at the moment. Okay? For each one, I can have a graph, again, a graph that's embeddable on my website, that shows the trend of searches. So basically, how a certain topic is being enhancing interest online, like people are searching on that topic. There is a certain regional association with that. Depending on the country, the regional data are more reliable or less reliable. This depends on the IP from what you are doing search. So you have to be conscious of that, because it's very important to know that not always the regionalization is actually that reliable. Definitely, though, you can see that in the entire volume of your country, searches on a certain topic is following a certain trend, okay? And this graph, again, it's an embeddable graph, so you can use it directly on your website. The most interesting feature, though, is that you can actually explore trends. And you can ask trends to show you, to compare at least 5 different terms. So you can say, I want to see trends, not from 2004, let's say in the past, I don't know, 30 days. I don't want it worldwide, but I want it again in Italy. And I want to see, I don't know, I'll just try, I don't know, governo, for example. Our prime minister. One of the ministers who just left the government, and so on. And you see how the searches go, okay? This is, for example, for the last 30 days. Of course, you can actually restrict to, for example, the past 7 days. You can modulate your search. Okay, so you can see, for example, this minister has been on the papers a lot in the last few weeks, and you can see like the interest by people searching her name, and then related searches, so questions that people are asking, topics that they're asking related to that particular search. So how do you use that? I'll just give you 2 examples. I hope we still have 2 minutes. I promised I'd be on time. So you can use it in many ways, but you can, for example, map how certain terms are searched. These are the recipes for Thanksgiving in the United States. Seems very light, but then it actually reflects, for example, how in the different states, the different communities are celebrating this particular festivity and what kind of food they are looking for. You can see how a certain topic compares to another. Again, search interest, for example, between 2 different diseases. Of course, you can see if there are seasonal peaks. I could show you that, for example, flu in Italy has a huge peak, like flu symptoms and flu vaccines and all of that kind of searches, staying in a field that I know well for my background, are peaking in October when the season starts, right? So I can go and see how these kind of terms are searched. I can compare, for example, the popularity of one, in this case it's a TV fiction against another one. I can use this data to say what people search about politicians who are running for the elections. And it's actually interesting to see that some of the questions are something that journalists never come up with. Like some questions are quite original, right? I could use it, as the Time did, to see which are the most searched terms in the year, and to actually, to actually show how that term became famous during the year, important, trending during the year. So for example, Ebola was very important in the months where the crisis was most dramatic, and then you have maybe another situation, another term that's striking more interest towards the end of the year. So I don't have only the list of the 10 most searched words in a year, but I actually know how these words have, in a way, described that year. Okay, I'll leave you with, yes, just a second. I just wanted to give you the contacts because we really need to close, but Google Trends has a Twitter channel, so you can get a lot of material also from the Twitter channel. Some of the graphics and some of the maps are actually produced to be reused. So you can keep up to date with what's available there. And also I want to give you, again, g.co/newslab, our website, our Google Plus, Twitter Google News Lab channel, again for updates, Google Plus community of the News Lab, where we publish lots of the tutorial as well, and indication for new tools, and YouTube channel, again, to keep up to date with us. And I'll just close with this. Newslab support at google.com is the mail where you can reach the team. Thank you. I think we have one, no, we don't. We go out for the question, that's okay. Thank you, everybody. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we go on YouTube and multimedia, whoever is interested. Thank you.